Looking for a super offer for Super Bowl 58? Well, DraftKings has you covered. New customers can bet on the big game and turn $5 into $200 instantly in bonus bets. The line right now is at San Francisco minus 1.5, but you can bet all sorts of things on the game, even the coin toss, although big shock, it's going to be 50-50 odds there. My brothers and I always place a bunch of bets on the Super Bowl every year. I'm not actually sure what I'm going to do yet, but I'm excited. It should be a great game. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS, that's HOOPS. New customers can bet $5 to get $200 instantly in bonus bets, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 58 with code HOOPS. Again, that's HOOPS. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction, void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/football for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. Do you see LeBron asking out if they don't fire Darvin Ham and or make a run this season? Couple of things. I think that it's on the table that if this season ends in extremely ugly fashion, that LeBron opts out and looks to sign somewhere else this summer to try to have a better chance to contend for a title. The biggest thing working against that happening would be the simple fact that he's going to be in his 22nd season and his kids are in LA. And so there's going to be moments where he's going to sit down and he's going to be like, man, this organization is a shit show. I could get out and I could go play for them and have a chance to win the title, but I'm old. I've been doing this for a long time. I have 4 titles. I've been to the finals 10 times. I've already kind of solidified myself as at worst the second best basketball player to ever touch the floor. Like, do I really want to leave my family and go do this? And I just think when he gets to that point, I think he's going to have a really hard time saying yes. So more likely than not, I think he just stays in LA, but I do think it's on the table, especially if things get really bad for the Lakers this year. Next question. What do you think about the different ways the Warriors and Lakers are handling the trade deadline? The Dubs are trying to go on a run and the Lakers are tanking, like tonight against the Celtics, to make a point. Different strategies and both stuck fighting for the plan. So I think both teams are really trying to make a run. I think the Warriors are dealing with real talent issues, and I think the Lakers are dealing with real like connectivity and belief issues. That said, like their deadline strategies are different as well, because the Lakers are willing to give up D'Angelo Russell. They're willing to give up a first-round pick to improve. They're willing to put guys in. For the Warriors, it's tough because their best trade asset is Jonathan Kuminga, and he is on a star trajectory, and so they probably won't move him. And so for the Warriors, it's looking more like a move on the margins. And so like it's one of those things where I think both of them are kind of destined for that play-in tournament. I think that's like almost a certainty at this point. All you have to do is take a peek at the standings. But I think they both want to do it. I just think they're different. Like the Warriors, to me, have good basketball character. They play hard all the time. They just have some limitations. The Lakers, to me, have lots of talent, but they have really bad basketball character, and that's what makes them very different from each other. That's why I say the Warriors actually remind me a lot of last year's Lakers. Last year's Lakers in December and January, they were fighting. They were trying to get back into a position where they could do something. Then the trade deadline gave them the talent they needed to make a move. That's why I look at that as kind of a corollary for Golden State. Bring in some more talent at the deadline. These guys really do believe. These guys really do play hard. That's where you could have a run post-deadline. Next question. Is Jaylen Green worth moving on from if you can get an all-star caliber player like LaVine or him? For him, I should say. So I think trading a guy like Jaylen Green for Zach LaVine would be a huge problem, a huge mistake. First of all, Zach LaVine is not some sort of franchise-altering talent. To me, the changes that Houston made are really smart in the sense that like Ime Udoka is a good coach that's great at like getting the toughness out of his young players. They brought in veteran players to kind of like increase the competence in the room. Now, I will say that like it is a mediocre basketball team, which is what we predicted before the season. But there's one giant exciting part in all of that, and that's that Jabari Smith Jr. and Alperen Sengun are just really freaking good. So like Jabari Smith and Alperen Sengun are really freaking good. So like you've already got like a decent foundation there. Now the question is, do you bail on Jaylen Green to go bring back another player? And yeah, if you can get a really good player, like if you can get a legitimate star, sure. But I don't think you trade Jaylen Green for a flawed star, someone like Zach LaVine. Not only that, Jaylen Green's playing a little bit better. And to Jaylen Green's credit, when you go and you bring in a Dylan Brooks and you go and bring in a Fred VanVleet, you make the situation in Houston more complicated with ball handling. And for a young guard, that changes his role fundamentally. Now, I would argue it's better than what he was doing before, where Houston's just deliberately being bad. And in that sequence, Jaylen Green has the ball a lot, but he's just learning how to be bad. Like, that's not good either. But like, it is a little bit different for him. He's learning how to share the basketball more in a team with a lot more ball handling. And my thing is like, it kind of like what I've said in a lot of cases, Jaylen Green's potential upside in the long run with him just kind of figuring things out and getting better is probably higher than what you can get back for a trade. So be happy with the fact that Jabari Smith and Alperen Sengun are so damn good. Give Jaylen Green some time to find out what he can be as an NBA player. Next question. In baseball, they say a good versus bad manager is worth plus or minus 3 wins-ish. Where do you think that number is in basketball? Where do you think the current Laker team would be with Spoelstra or Lou coaching as compared to Ham, who most would agree has done a poor job this season? So I think that coaching has a huge impact in the regular season, and I think it has some impact in the postseason, but I do still think that the coach doesn't have nearly as much impact as the star. Best example is the Lakers. Like Darvin Ham, like, and I've said this before, and we're going to talk about it more in a little bit, but to me, like Darvin Ham's main role on this team is just getting the rotation right. Like I'm not like LeBron will figure out the offensive adjustments. LeBron and Anthony Davis together will figure out the defensive adjustments in terms of the way they need to organize themselves on the floor. And even when they first hired Darvin Ham, I didn't view him as like a tactician. I was like, this is the classic former player coach type archetype that can look eye to eye with these guys and get them to play hard, just like Ime Udoka did for the Celtics. The problem is Darvin Ham is not motivating these guys. And so when you combine that with his rotation decisions, which have been so confusing, it has been downright damaging. Belief plays a huge role over the course of the regular season, which is why I've said the regular season has a bigger coaching impact than the postseason. If Erik Spoelstra was the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, you can bet your ass that there's going to be more down the roster belief in the day-to-day product, which will get them to play harder more consistently. The rotation will be right, and schematically, they will be assisted from the sideline. That would absolutely make them a better team. I think this Laker roster would probably win between 45 and 50 games if Erik Spoelstra was the coach. I still think they'd have some issues with LeBron kind of coasting from time to time. I still think they'd have some issues with some of the roster organization before the deadline. Like, we all knew the Lakers were going to be a team that was active at the deadline. But like, because all that hasn't happened, you've gotten really poor effort. You've had misalignment of the rotation. You haven't had schematic support from the sideline. As a result, they've underachieved. And Ty Lue's kind of an interesting example because let's not forget Ty Lue agreed to terms to become the Lakers coach before Frank Vogel got hired. But what happened was Jeannie Buss disrespected him. Ty Lue was a championship coach, wanted to be paid like a championship coach. And Jeannie Buss said, I'm not going to pay you like a championship coach, which was downright disrespectful. And there's a real case to be made that it was one of the bigger turning points of the LeBron AD era, that instead of Ty Lue getting what he deserved and where he'd still be the coach of the Lakers and they would have just better support from the sideline over the course of the 82, instead they don't have that. And so it's an interesting thing to kind of look back at. Next question. What's your biggest pet peeve sports narrative? For me, and this is from the questioner, for me, it's when teams have constant success get disregarded with, quote, they haven't won anything, end quote, simply because they don't win a title. Think these recent Celtics teams, Michigan football before the Natty or Harden's Rockets. So with your specific pet peeve, I do think there's some truth to that, where like it can be kind of like no fun to act like winning the title is all that matters. But that's exactly what makes champions so special. And that's why, Logan, our head of content here at The Volume, calls me a loyalist to the banner. That's why I look so much at the championship. That's why I told Jokic fans, like, once he gets it done, I'll defend him to the bitter end. Like, to me, it is so incredibly hard to do. That goes to show you with these Celtics teams, for instance, how they've consistently come up short. Like, it is difficult to do. And so when it is done, we need to apply the appropriate respect to it. My pet peeves, I've got two of them that I'll throw you, or three of them that I'll throw you guys. One, old heads thinking the game used to be better. That always blows my mind. Like, basketball players are just better now than they used to be. Big shock. That's why I say when it comes to ranking guys all time, you have to rank them relative to their era and not against each other, because basketball players are just better now. Second one, catch-all metrics. I just think it is a fundamental misunderstanding of the way the game of basketball works. And so trying to quantify a player's impact into one number, I think, is just a fool's errand. And I always think it's funny when I see people kind of put a catch-all metrics in player comparisons as like the end-all be-all, when that just simply is not the case. And then lastly, referring to shooting luck as gospel rather than one of the many small factors in a basketball game. Again, to be clear, I think shooting luck is a thing that does impact basketball games, but we've reached a point now where we basically, it's like the first and only thing we talk about. And that I think becomes a problem. I think that when we start to view the game of basketball as a slot machine, I think we've all lost the plot. And so those are just three of my bigger pet peeves as of right now covering the game.